Llama Mama and the Lucky Pajamas. Llama Llama plays in his bedroom. One Saturday morning, he is wearing his red pajamas. Master Wayne, that Mama Llama Master Wayne, just made it for him. He launches a basketball over his shoulder. It swishes. Master Wayne, you need to read the Llama Mama.
I should get your Pokemon. I should give you Pikachu. That's irresponsible. I'm gonna see your mother. We're gonna go out nice for dinner. Welcome back. Taking a snap. Pokemon snap. Snap. Oh.
It like regressed into Yoda for a second.
Yeah, kind of did.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Oh,
that was more Fat Albert. No, but like that's how Oak talks. So it was like,
yeah,
let's show our Charizard. Get you Pokemon. Get on the Pokemon.
Yoda. Are we
Dan,
recording?
I have a joke for you. What kind of car do I drive?
You and I both got silent and just looked, and then he's like, "What kind of car do you drive?"
No, it's from
Toyota.
I remember from Game Grumps. I think I showed you that clip, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you did.
I think what made that funny was when he always ended his joke, like, because it was like Dan was losing it in Super Mario. You can leave this out of the recording, but he's like
Too
leaving.
late.
What?
Too late.
Okay, well, I don't want to talk about
Once
another
it's-
show on our show.
You can.
Haven't we already done that?
You can.
I guess
you
we
can
have
do
done
that.
Well, it's all right.
You
So
can do that.
the whole
You
funny
can
part of the
do
joke was
that.
like,
You can do that.
he would be,
Do it. This is what it's like.
forget it.
This is what I feel like.
Oh gosh.
This is America. Catching the Pokemon.
I'm gonna be number one.
Can we make a video of that? Except I'm dancing in it.
Just really poorly. Yeah.
I can't dance.
I know.
Yeah.
I think that video is like a social commentary though. So for a white man to come in and start dancing would be a little.
All right. Welcome to the SJW podcast.
Oh.
Hey now.
JK.
Don't put me in that.
Super Johto
Don't put me in
Warriors.
that. Super Johto.
Super Joda. Joda?
Johto.
Joda.
Jojo
Super Johto
Warriors.
Warriors.
Super Johto
Yeah,
Warriors.
we fight for Pokemon rights.
That's called PETA.
What?
That's what PETA does.
Pokemon.
They fight for
Peter,
Pokemon.
well, and Team
Extreme
Galactic. Or
Tamer.
not, no, Team Plasma. In black and white.
Mm.
They're all like, oh, we want to give Pokemon rights, but then they just like
Abuse
freaking throw
them.
their Zubats
Yeah.
right in your face.
Sounds about right.
Yep.
That's society. It's commentary on society.
That's society.
It was
That's
too
so
nuanced for us
countercultural.
when we were kids. That's so countercultural. Bro, where's
Bro,
Team
that's-
Plasma are so countercultural.
And then in black and white too, they're like different and they like split off from each
No,
other.
now we're like
Yeah, they're like friend. I liked their
punk
designs
because like
their designs,
punk
like the
is
French
the new
berets and stuff.
countercultural.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool.
And there's the ones wearing like the brown robes,
yeah,
who were like the basically like the outcast
the
people,
Outcast Elite.
'Cause
who
they're
were-
cult.
who were followers of N or whatever.
That would be cool to have like like one of the enemy teams in a Pokemon game be
That's
like
number
a cult.
one.
What?
Sorry.
No, Team Rocket.
That's number one, dude.
Team Rocket is still the best.
Team Rocket's like the OG. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're the ones who
I
started
do like Team Skull because like they're just goofy. I like the goofiness
Yeah.
of them and like how both Plumeria and Guzma are like well not Guzma because Guzma's like he has the best line of any Pokemon villain where he's like y'all are stupid. Y'all are stupid.
Well, I feel like with Team Skull too, like they were just like misguided almost.
Yeah.
Whereas like they didn't. I mean, some of them were kind of like evil, but some of them were just like they kind of got scooped up into this whole thing, and they're all just like, I'm scared.
They were outcasts.
Don't hurt me.
Which is
Yeah.
what I liked that they did in the game is they made the NPCs like it was oh I should shut the door.
Yeah, I got it. Keep going.
It's like the NPCs looked like the it's like the punk characters that it's like punk so and so wants to battle. It's like those characters have like a similar design.
They
to
look
Team
almost
Skull.
yeah.
And then it's like they turn into Team Skull.
Mhm.
Oh, that's
They're like a mix between like punks and like like hip hop style,
yeah.
because they do like that music plays and they're like dancing.
They
You
remind
can't see me, but I'm dancing.
He's dancing real good. Shout out to you, Orange Shirt Kid. But
oh yeah. We showed a video earlier. I won't play because the lyrics are a little explicit.
little raunchy.
But there is an amazing video that you could check out. So you probably know Fortnite. If not,
Maybe.
if you haven't played, no, everyone knows Fortnite.
Unless you're uncultured.
I saw an article saying Fortnite is like the biggest game right now.
Ever.
I didn't read the article, so I can't comment on what it said. I just read the headline, so
So therefore you
I'm
read
a part of the
article.
problem.
So therefore I read the article.
I read
continue.
Yeah, you just made an assumption just from.
Yeah.
Do I sound okay? I sound kind of.
Just
Should I leave it
do
right
what you
here?
gotta do.
Mic check, mic check.
Well, I don't know what to do.
Just like
I'm like, what? Do I sound loud? Do what you do.
Do what you do. No, you sound good. Sound
Okay.
good.
You sound fine.
Sound good.
I can account for
Sound
it.
good, bro.
Basically in Fortnite they had this challenge called the hashtag Boogie Down.
Scooch it back.
Boogie Down.
Boogie down.
Just there you go.
And in the challenge, you basically had to like make your own dance, but you couldn't have music playing. So like, there's just so many probably cringy videos of little kids just like dancing to no music.
I
But-
can dance and I have an iPhone.
But there was a video that went out that's saying that like there needs to be justice for Orange Shirt Kid. So in 23rd place of the whole competition, there was this kid who did just the most like look it up. You can find just like type in
Fortnite
Orange Shirt Kid.
Shirt Kid.
Yeah, it's a beautiful dance. It really like
Especially once you add the music to it. then
Yeah.
it's- yeah.
the over the top rap music that plays as raunchy as it is. It makes it so funny because it's just like this banging bass boosted. Yeah. And it's just it's so good. So I was just showing the
That's
guys
what the
that
internet was
earlier
for,
today.
is
Yeah.
for justice for
Justice
the
for
Justice
Orange
for
Shirt
Orange
Kid.
yeah.
And then eventually what happened was a week later after this video by Dolan Dark, I think, was posted. Great memer. After he posted that video, it was like raising awareness, quote unquote, for Orange Shirt Kid, and they put his emote in the game. You can go in Fortnite, look at all the different dance emotes, and they have
Orange
an
Justice.
emote that's called Orange Justice. Also a great exercise.
And then the sub line for it, which is a quote from the video, is it's also a great exercise move.
So good. That's what I got. As much as I'm not a huge fan of Fortnite, I give them credit for that, for appealing to the culture and
Mhm.
being like,
I mean, they know
we
how
can put a
how
dance.
to appeal to their fans.
Oh yeah. I just,
There's a reason they're the biggest game like right now. So
I'm kind of surprised that they
just
haven't.
because big people are playing it. Like
Yeah.
Drake's now Logan Paul and Jake Paul they play. There was a great video I watched by this YouTuber called Opanda, and he was making a joke about Fortnite just because like everyone can't stop talking about it. He was like, oh, these are my friends these days. Like, oh, dude, you know how many times I got #1 in Fortnite? A lot. He was like, okay, we're gonna do a little reveal. Let's see how many people care. And they like opens this curtain. He's like, oh wait, it looks like no one shows up. No one cares. No one cares. And just like highlighting that, like it's just so popular. And he was like joking too about just like, oh, Drake's a gamer. He plays Fortnite and stuff like that. And I think it's like
That's my favorite qualification. Oh, Drake plays Fortnite. Therefore,
gamer.
he is a gamer. Like no,
not that there's anything wrong with that.
He was a gamer when he stole the Wii Shop music and used it for Hotline Bling.
well he didn't.
Let's be real.
Technically he didn't, but someone.
But hearing that version of it is hilarious.
the Wii Shop music version is better than the original.
Oh, it
You
absolutely
used to
is.
call me. I'm a. May not wait.
That,
Wait,
that
you do
song
the,
got so mean.
I got that.
You do the music. No way. You got to start from the beginning. And he's like, you used. No.
You
You're
used to
Dan.
call me
Forget
on
it.
my
Forget
cell
it.
phone.
Okay, when he's like, it starts with the. Late night when you need my love, call me on your cell phone. You got it wrong.
Whatever.
No, that wasn't bad though. Because my favorite
Close
part,
enough.
My favorite part is when it's like, I know where the hotline blink. That can. I know when that hotline blink. Way to go.
I'm the human beatbox, me boy.
You're the human. You're the human poop box.
Oh my gosh.
I'm available on weekends for weddings.
That would be awesome. You just like you do a lot
The
of
song
different
goes
songs,
out to
but
Sandra and Eric. Love you guys.
Congratulations.
it's like just remixes
We're gonna
of songs, but only with that beat in it.
It's like we're gonna. It's like now if Eric and Sarah can come for their first dance as bride and groom, then you're like.
It's just got a mic.
Hello, dang. Just like
People start crying and are like, so beautiful.
that
so
one,
beautiful.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my!
I would love to see some kind of skit where those people who can do crazy beatbox things that someone signs them to do like a live show for like a rave or something.
That'd be dope.
Just
There's
like
got to be someone that's done
I'm
that.
sure. That'd be
You
great.
get so tired though. Like 2 hours later, you're just like,
Those are my chocolates.
Chocolate.
You
Chocolate?
you put those next to my backpack.
Did you say chocolate?
You can have my chocolate.
Settle
My
down.
wife's yelling at me because I ate her chocolate, I guess. Sorry.
Did you say chocolate?
Yes, sir. With or without nuts. Why did I give him an old man voice? With or without nuts.
That's one of my favorite.
SpongeBob.
Gosh.
It's me, Patrick.
SpongeBob.
Hi, what up, Sponge? what, dude?
My beard keeps rubbing against the pop filter and it's itchy.
The pop filter's itchy or your beard is itchy?
The pop filter makes my
Don't
beard
scrap
itchy.
the.
I don't think that's how it
scrap,
works.
Scratch. Don't
Don't
scratch
scrap the scrapper. Don't scrap me, Scrappy
What's
dude.
that thing from? We saw this.
Don't know, Daggy.
Don't know, Daggy. It also has some good scratch.
What?
Wait, are we
Ned
recording
Flanders
right
when
now?
he starts his own.
Yep. He said that like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
Oh,
It
I don't
was a
think you
joke.
did.
I love how that's the default if a joke. If a joke.
if a jolt.
If a joke fails, it's like that. That was the joke.
I know that's your. Mine is like
That's my go-to, yeah.
Yeah, what's our go-to thing for jokes like that? Whenever someone's like, "That was a joke," I'm like, "Oh."
Mine used to be, I'm fat.
That was wait. You responded to jokes with that.
Well, if somebody,
they're like,
if
"Ah, it's a
somebody
joke."
called me out on something, I'll just be like, I'm fat. Because then it's like people don't know how to respond to that because they're like, what
I
do
just
do
don't know
like
how to
comfort,
respond.
Yeah.
Do I like comfort
They're
him
like,
and say, no,
"Yeah."
you're not fat? But like also he's joking, but he's not, but he is.
So like, I'm fat. Like, yeah.
The funny thing is, my
that's where
brother
my
used to do
stare
that to
comes
me,
from.
like, because I would get like so, like, when I would get angry at my brother and I'd be like yelling at him about something, like telling him off, he would just like make this dumb face and be like, I'm fat. And I'd be like, stop saying that. I'm fat.
You're not listening to
I'm
my
like,
feelings. So
so then I adopted it for my own purposes.
So you stole it.
Because it makes people uncomfortable. which
So
is
did you just start doing
hilarious
it
to me.
back to him? So when he would say that, you'd just be like, "I'm fat." And he's
That's
like,
basically the
no,
only way we
I'm
talk to each
fat.
other now.
That's arguments in your household is like,
Yeah,
I'm fat.
I'm fat. I'm fat.
I'm fat.
I'm fat.
No, I'm fat.
What's
I'm
all right, what's
fat.
something terrible I did when I was younger? An annoying constant joke I did.
Oh, one of our favorite stories is there was this one time you and I were we were fighting about something.
Yeah.
And it's the one where I was like I did the unexcusable and I drop kicked you in the nads.
Yeah.
and
Like,
it was something where it was like something where I was just so irritated and fed up, which was a very low bar to cross.
Yeah,
over.
literally I had to be like, dude, you look stupid, dude.
Roundhouse kick to the nuts.
So I drop kicked him. Our relationship is much healthier and more fun nowadays,
Yes.
but back in the day it was not. And so I drop kicked him.
Every day I had to worry about the seismic toss.
It was super effective.
Macho. Seismic toss.
Super effective.
Yeah.
Throws him off the
But,
roof of the house.
There's this one time where I kicked him hard in the nads.
Yeah.
He like dropped. So he's like in a huddle, and I was like, "Yeah, that's what you get." And my dad was like, "Come with me."
No, I remember.
right
Yeah,
there.
he like was he like came in.
Right as
Yeah,
it happened.
he came in right as like it was winding down, and then Josh Swift kicked me, and he was like, "What's up?" Oh,
My dad was like, "Come with me," and Zach was like, "Oh."
I know it was like it
Aw.
was a joyous moment, but I was also in extreme pain. It's gonna be a stupid episode.
Welcome back to the Pop Culture Punks
Well, it's good
podcast.
because we're losing you after this week because you'll be gone.
Yeah, that's true.
Aw.
You'll be on occasionally over the summer. but-
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I can come. Well, I don't know if I could come every weekend. That'd
You
be
could
hard.
come once in a while. We
Maybe
could,
like every
we could
other-
go down there once in a while, maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be
Hang out
helpful.
more.
It'd be fun. Take a
Milltown.
trip down to Milwaukee. and
Milwaukee.
Do some fun stuff.
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Or you could just like Skype me in. Try doing that.
We could, yeah.
I'll get you set up.
Because then that would
I think
be
that we
that'd be
have
a good test for like when I go abroad. And we could try doing that.
in
Because
Tokyo.
you have a program that you want to do
Tokyo.
at some point. So
Yep.
we
So we might
could
be able to make
jump
it
on
work.
that and try it
Yeah.
out this summer and see how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
Because if we want to interview people in like California too, eventually or something, it might be nice to have.
And why don't we?
Oof. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome back to
The show's over.
We'll pick up from there because we can maybe give a synopsis of what the summer how things may be different.
Wait, what?
Huh?
Was that a transition sound?
It was like the bad Seinfeld, like.
Welcome back to another episode of the Pop Culture Punks podcast.
Way to go, Smokey.
Oh, Smokey the Phil.
It'd be
Where
filled with
we
smoke.
bring pop culture back to the pit.
You know it, bro. Bumps.
Bring it to the pit.
Bumps.
Bump
I got
it.
you, dog.
Bump it.
I'm not bumping anyone.
Bump it.
That's gross.
Nope.
Don't bump nothing.
I will.
Don't go bumping.
I will wump up nothing.
This week we will be discussing the summer and what some of our pop culture plans are.
Gonna
And
head out to
our-
the beach, do some
and our
beachy things.
Beachy
in the
things. Play
summertime.
some Game Boy on the beach.
Ooh, that'd be beaching.
You're kind of hard to see.
I
You're
don't
like,
want sand in my. I don't want sand in my Game Boy.
There's sand in my Game Boy.
just like Beach Boy comes up, he's like, "Hey, nerd!" Kicks his head. You idiot! You've ruined it.
Hey, just drop kick him in the nuts. That'll land him on the
Then his dad's gonna come. He's like, "Come here,
Come here. Some random dude. Come here.
The lifeguard.
come here."
The lifeguard comes and just drop kicks you in the
We're like,
It's a whole cycle. Another guy comes and drop kicks him.
who played Baywatch and the new Baywatch? Wasn't it Dwayne
Rock.
Dwayne
Yeah,
Johnson, yeah.
Dwayne the Rock. Like, wow, Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Come here.
Come here.
You drop kick your nads into oblivion. Like out
They
into
like
the
find him on the other
ocean.
side of the earth. Like, what are these?
Like archaeologists digging.
These don't look old.
My God, Jim. Do you know what these are?
These are human testicles.
It's just like testicles.
Probably from some ancient civilization.
Oh gosh. So yeah, that's our plans. For
We need to
this week.
study
Talking
these
about
to further understand our society.
These must be from space.
That's. I don't know where that.
So do we
Would an
want to do
archaeologist
it?
make that jump in their mind?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You've
These-
seen the meme.
These are from space.
Aliens.
Oh yeah.
Aliens. Just the
everywhere.
picture of testicles.
On the beach.
They're like gilded.
That's what I was thinking.
Lance
of.
Armstrong.
Oh,
Aliens.
wasn't that Ted?
Yeah.
Like the guy, one of the guys is
He had
Lance Armstrong.
He had it.
It's disgusting.
No, he said beach justice, and immediately I thought of Gumble to Gumble. You taste that?
That's the taste of beach justice. It's a
Family Guy.
wonderful Family Guy clip.
Mm-hmm.
Look it up, Gumble to Gumble.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about? I want freaking money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with him? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a reference still?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
So do we want to do a quick update on the summer? Not necessarily the topic, but
Yeah.
like podcast plans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's doing
You
it?
can start.
Me doing it? All right, cool.
You can kick it off, and we'll just interject whenever we feel.
So, the trio is changing because Zach will be moving.
The trio has become a
will be
duo.
finishing his Dio.
sorry.
Did you get that
Been
reference?
gone too long. Yeah.
Okay,
Kill Switch Engage is the better version.
I agree. Anyway, so we're gonna be changing up how the podcast is run over the summer because we will not have Zach consistently on. He will be on occasionally, but he is
Our
going to
funny
be
bone will be gone.
moving back home,
Yep.
and then after that, he will be shipping off to Tokyo.
Shipping off
for
to
a year.
Boston.
Ooh. That was racist. Here I am about to study abroad, and I'm like, yo.
So as a result of that, Phil and I have been brainstorming ways to keep it interesting because he and I just aren't as funny
Oh.
by ourselves.
I mean, like we are
We're funny,
What,
but
you're-
you
we're not-
you like bring out our humor. Like,
Yeah.
but when we're together, we just like complain
too
about
se-
things
yeah.
and brood and like the Star Wars episode.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what
that was
basically what
us without
happens.
you.
Right.
I know. I remember when you were like, we need Zach on here. I was like, I need it.
I have purpose.
I have
purpose.
I said a shingle tear.
one tier. So
Nancy
yeah,
used to drink
we've been
Shrub.
kind of brainstorming things to do. Well,
Yes.
when
and
you're not
then-
on, but we also will still.
Yeah, I will still be
Yeah.
like, I'm moving to Milwaukee to live with my family, which will be fine. I'll be working at a coffee shop in my hometown, so that'll be dope. Collectivo, if you guys are familiar with that chain of coffee shops in Wisconsin area, they're amazing.
Good
dope.
coffee.
Not
Yeah.
a plug. They are a great coffee shop.
I think it's still a
distinct-
plug. It's just not a shameless plug.
Random-
not a shameless
Random memory, but I
Yo.
I distinctly remember last summer. I think we were at. You went to Collectivo to get something, and then we
Yes.
went to what's that place called?
Cafe Hollander.
Cafe
Right
Hollander.
next door.
And somehow we just started brainstorming like sugar rush ideas.
Yes.
And then we had like the
Yes.
whole origin story of diabetes, man.
Yes.
He had like a gas mask with like broccoli filters and stuff.
I've had to eat healthy for a choice.
Well, and then we said we were gonna like go into the candy store and like pretend like you were
Yeah, like I'm surrounded by kids with candy, and I'm like, no, this
that'd be
must
great.
be stopped.
So yeah,
all
I will be
really
on.
love that, yeah.
I will be on as much as possible, but just due to being like an hour and a half away for the most part and working, it'll be a little less often.
Yep.
So
Change of pace.
yeah.
But Phil and I have planned. We have a list of people local to Madison, and also we have some stretch people we're gonna reach out
Stretch
to and see.
goals.
But we're gonna be reaching out to some people to actually interview and have on. So some of the people on the list, we've mentioned them before, are good friends Over the Sun, who they have a new song on we listened to yesterday. It was really
good.
It's really
I forget what
fun.
it's called. I can look it up and give him a shout.
But one of our really good friends from UW, Nick Strubes, he is the guitarist for Over the Sun, and so he'll be joining us, I think, once. We'll have Chris and Tom on again
Oh,
and
absolutely.
keep them going
Classic
on.
guess.
We'll have, the classics. We have DJ Rip, who his music is on iTunes right now, who's a
Dude, his
rapper
his
to Madison.
set at your wedding was
Yeah.
like impeccable.
Yeah.
I was-
that dude
Wait,
was
that
is,
was the guy that DJ'd?
yeah, the DJ'd.
He was good.
Yeah.
He was really good.
Like
Yeah.
I was so impressed because like the transitions between the
Yup.
songs were just like as soon as you start getting bored of the song, he would just like right at that moment.
But he
like,
actually
flip to
and he
the
put
next
in his
song.
own transitions too. It wasn't like a
Yeah.
fade out and fade in. It was
Yeah.
like
It was
Legit.
like you're
mixing.
like, ooh, okay.
yeah,
okay,
I
okay.
remember all of us being like, yeah, and then like slowing down, like, all right, all
Yeah.
right.
And it made it so like you could never take a
like,
break.
Oh, all right,
Yup.
all right.
It's like you never wanted to leave the dance floor because every time
No.
you
It just
like
kept
right
going.
at that moment when you're like, oh, it's like the last 30 seconds. I'll go get some drinks. It'd be like next song, next. Oh, dang, I can't leave now.
Exactly.
So he's
I don't know
dope. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard, but excuse.
Taking Me Down by Over the Sun is the new song.
Taking Me Down.
They got a video on YouTube. It's super good.
Yeah.
And funny. The video's
Yep.
funny.
Apparently, at the reception hall we were at, the owners of the place said that at Josh's wonderful wedding, apparently they had never seen so many people stay on the dance floor for so long.
That was insane.
Like in all their
The
years.
dance
crazy.
floor was full the whole
Yeah.
night. I was
Literally.
like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. That
Yeah.
was
It was
the best
rowdy.
night. The best night.
It was
So
rowdy.
we'll have to have him on and chat
Yeah.
him up because
So-
he seems like a cool guy.
Yeah, Glow and I got to sit down with him when we were just talking through like what the night was gonna go like, and of course us being us, we were like, well, this isn't just like business. Like, oh, what do you do? How did you get into music? And dude just like knows a ton about music stuff and just very knowledgeable on not just making and production, but he also has like a video background. So he's like made all his own music videos. So if you go
Dang.
online and look up his stuff, I think he's worked with like camera people and stuff, but he's helped do all the editing and special effects and everything in it.
Wow.
So he's great rapper, great DJ, great video artist, like really talented dude. So we're hoping to reach out to him and see if he's available. I have a friend who I worked with when I was an RA, who he does DJing in Madison. He has a residency at Club Liquid off at University. So he does some cool stuff. He's so funny. He and I have this really funny memory of him and I staying up till like 4 a.m. playing Until Dawn. When it like first came out, and he didn't have a PlayStation,
Oh,
so
okay.
he had gotten it to play with his residents, and he's black, so he was like joking the whole time. He's like, that's the brother. We're gonna keep the brother alive. He's like, I don't care who else dies. Like he's the one who's
Yeah,
staying alive.
that game
And so
literally
we-
had the token black character.
Yeah, and so we were just he was just like cracking up and making fun of everything.
well,
and we
because
were just
it's such a campy horror game.
yeah, it's so bad. But some DJ Mondo. So if you want to check out his stuff as well, I think he has some of his own stuff online as well. I'll see. Libsyn with posting is really finicky with like word count, which seems really stupid, but I like can't link a ton of stuff, which I would like to do. But since we're like dropping all these names and stuff, so people can kind of check it out.
Maybe just put the names and then they can look it up at their own leisure.
But yeah, so some really cool people that we're hoping to just like sit down and chat with.
Definitely.
So Mondo's a huge gamer too. He and I played a ton of the Division together. He's stupid good at Gears of War and Mortal Kombat. I think he took
So is he
on
an Xbox guy? Is that why
yeah,
you have
he's
PS4?
yeah, he's
Okay.
yeah, he's Xbox guy, but he took on our whole RA staff and lost once.
Wow.
Out of
In
like
Gears?
6, he in Mortal Kombat.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 10.
Wow.
He went like we played for like probably 3 hours, and I think he went like 40-2. So over that,
crap.
so like, yeah, I mean, not that any of us are
Yeah.
like
But still,
any
to
good,
take on that
yeah.
many
but
people,
he was shredding. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this is kind of close. It was just
tearing people down.
stomping people.
I'd love
Dang.
to do that with Smash Bros.
Yeah. He's good at Smash too. He's really talented. But so Mondo, DJ Rip, Stubbs, and Over the Sun. There's some local businesses
like comic shops
Westfield
and
Comics.
Stuff,
We're hoping to talk to the owner, and then we're also hoping to reach out to some people in the industry as well. So after finishing Night in the Woods, I would love to talk to the writers of that. Would be really cool. And then we also have the guys from The Patron, which is the comic we
the
help fund.
patrons, yeah,
That
which got funded.
yeah,
So-
I'm super stoked,
Yeah.
and I put in for the one that comes with the noir edition.
Oh, the
so I'm
$50.
like,
I'm
I'm stoked.
I might up it, but if I can get an extra $25, I might up it to that 50 because
Do you know if you got in contact with these guys yet?
I think you emailed them, didn't you?
I didn't email them. They contacted me because they were just thanking people individually for like whatever. But I think that was before it blew up, so they probably stopped contacting people
Right? Yeah,
individually.
yeah. Now it's like,
But because I think I backed them when it was at like $2,000 only
yeah,
because they posted pictures on Reddit and I was like, dude. So I like messaged them on Reddit and said like, I do this
This looks
podcast.
sweet.
We'll give you a shout and stuff.
yeah.
But I didn't plug our podcast because I didn't want it to seem like, oh, you should listen to our podcast because we're giving you a shout out. So, but maybe if we can get in contact,
Yeah,
with them
even
and be
just to, like,
hey,
hear their
we're,
process
like, digging
and-
what you're doing.
Yep.
Dude, that noir version though, it like they're actually like changing it and making it more like noir too, with like because it's like noir usually has like inner monologue and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're like adding that to that version to like make it seem more detective-y.
Yeah.
So that'll be kind of cool.
So it'll be.
But-
I'm really excited. So we've got some stuff planned to keep it kind of new and fresh,
Yeah.
and just to adjust to the dynamic. So we're not going to try and keep it and expect it to be and run the same.
Yeah,
If,
I mean, we'll still be doing stuff and being
Yep.
goofy, but
Yeah.
it might just change a little bit since Zach won't be here every time.
Sorry, I do want to be a part of those episodes though. If you get like
No, I mean,
actual,
if you
if you get actually not that
like
sounds,
a famous person.
that sounds mean to me.
Hey,
That,
Ethan
like,
and Eli are
discredit
gonna
that like
be on.
discredits like Tom and Chris being like, I want actual guests on our podcast. Like,
I mean,
no.
I think if we get bites on things, we can try and plan it out where
Right.
we can do it with you as well. So
right, cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to be.
we
part of that.
we wouldn't just like all of a sudden, oh, Zach's not in anymore. He's out.
Yeah, just like I listen to podcasts like today we get to talk with like Bill Gates about the computer
About
industry. I'm
running
like,
Microsoft.
I didn't get to. I could have met Bill Gates. What?
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
we'll
figure
keep
it
you
out.
in.
But it's more to just keep it interesting. We're trying to grow the base as well, and
Mhm.
just make sure this keeps growing and
Yeah.
evolving and getting better. Because no one's
Yeah.
sending us emails, so we're just googling stuff. What Google tells us to do.
Yeah.
Because Google has
Google
answers,
knows
so
all.
you know.
Yeah.
He's our Lord and Savior.
Oh, hail Google.
Thank you, Google.
Thanks, Google.
But yeah, on that note, you should feel free to share our podcast with friends and family who you think might enjoy it. Even if you think they might not enjoy it, still share it with them and leave us a review.
Hey, there's a stupid show you should listen to. It's really stupid.
It's really stupid.
It's really
I would
stupid.
love if that was how we got it.
Yeah.
It's real. Like, what's it
It's
about? What's the
really
podcast about?
bad.
It's really dumb.
It's really dumb.
That'd
That's
be
funny.
amazing.
So,
So
yeah.
that's pretty much the gist. So things are going to be shifting a little bit. It's just a heads up.
Get excited. It's gonna be
yeah.
fun.
We're going to
So.
we're going to the experimental phase.
Yeah.
So
Sounds a little inappropriate if you ask me, but
Uh-oh.
going
Changing pace.
experimental, baby. Yeah,
Yeah,
Going to the
a
baby.
little
pit.
chemistry, baby. Yeah.
little chemistry on the pit, baby.
Now, why do you have to bring it to the pit every time?
Because that's our catchphrase, baby. Yeah.
What's going on? Is that Jordan Peterson?
I
What
must
just
have,
happened?
I must have accidentally clicked on one of my videos on YouTube when I was
Just from like flailing your hands around.
yeah.
Oh,
We getting Jordan Peterson on a little interview, asking
Dude,
about video games.
I was-
The psychology
dude, I would-
of video games.
No, I would just ask him like big questions like that have
What's the
no-
meaning of life? He
Maybe
could
not
probably talk
that
about
big.
3 hours.
I know.
well, I mean, like,
Because when you look at how
the psychology of man. Like,
that's not really how he sounds.
he sounds like
You gotta get a
Kermit
little
the
more
Frog.
like a little more throaty with it, like Kermit.
the Frog.
If you look at the psychology of man,
Look at the psychology of man.
It's bad stuff, man.
no,
You don't want to go there.
I'm trying to assess.
See, I feel like my go-to is either the coughing thing, or if somebody says something and I don't know how to respond, I just don't say anything. Just
See, that's what I do. I just kind of
Which we can't do because we're on a podcast.
And then
which
it
is
just
even
goes-
funnier because it's silent, and then we laugh about it.
And then we laugh about the silence.
Then we
on
laugh
the
about the
joke.
silence out. We just laugh at our own jokes, basically.
Yeah.
Nobody else thinks we're funny.
No, definitely not.
That's fair.
No, I've heard Evan cracking up at us, so I know other people.
Maybe
Great.
Maybe that's pity laugh. She's like,
They're trying
she like
hard.
You're
They're
like
trying
you're like in the other room. You're like, man, she really likes our stuff, and then like she's just sitting on the couch, like flipping over the tape and playing the laugh track again.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
She's like, oh, poor Phil.
Oh, poor Phil.
He
tries.
thinks he's good.
He tries. He thinks he's talking good.
And those other kids that he hangs out with, I don't know about
They're a
them.
bad
Bunch of
influence.
scrubs. So yeah, on that note, what have you guys been up to this week, pop culture wise? Anything new? Who was that? I look at my phone for a second.
Gotta chill. I gotta chill from the Holy Spirit.
Oh gosh.
And fire came down from heaven.
And the fire went. God spoke through the burning bush and said, and Moses said, Lord, I don't understand what you're saying.
He said, Lord, could you repeat that?
Lord said, this is a test for you. So God smite poor Joe with festering boils all over his body.
Oh, man, I hate this story. Well, first, we already kind of spoiled one thing that I've been doing this week, is I've been watching religiously every day to see if the Patrons was going to get funded, because it's my first Kickstarter, and I was like, oh, I really want it to get funded. And it did.
I'm curious what it's at now.
It was pushing 25, I thought.
That would be
last
nice because
time.
I think they're doing better paper with 25.
Yeah. So there's that. So I'm really excited for that. Huge Cyberpunk fan, which is one of the other things I've been
What
doing.
is the story called?
The Patrons.
The
So
Patrons.
it's like Cyberpunk.
Well, no, I remember.
Setting.
I was saying like you should mention the name again. To
Yeah,
clarify.
the Patrons.
It's at 23,658. So if you
Ooh.
love Cyberpunk and you like reading and comics and stories,
I like
you
reading.
should
I
check
mean,
it out. It's
there's-
called The Patrons Part 1.
Yeah, and there's a pretty low entrance, I thought. Like some of the.
Yeah, I think
Ooh, excuse
like because I paid 25, but that gets you like 3 variants
of
of the
things,
comic and like all this stuff.
Gets you
So
some
like
good
I think
stuff.
you could probably get the base comic for like 10 or 15.
Right.
Nice.
So
And
if
then
it hits
5 is, like,
25
the
and it's
PDF
in
or something,
yeah, and
so.
it's in good paper.
Yeah,
with,
that'd be
or with
dope.
better paper. So I'm excited for that. On the Cyberpunk train, I finished the first volume of 7 of Spider-Man 2099, the 2014 run, which is very interesting. It's I don't know. I really like it. I want to make that clear. But the storyline, and I think this is like one of the things where I was like, ooh, this is where I get kind of iffy with comics, is some of the plot things are just so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, all right, there's like all these hundreds of thousands of different universes with this specific Spider-Man, and there's this guy who's going to kill them, and there's this only one timeline where the main bad guy gets killed by this Spider-Man, and I need to keep that Spider-Man alive. Oh, no, I'm dead now. But like, oh, but that Spider-Man's still alive, so you can still kill him. And oh, the bad guy's scared because he knows he has to come back and die. And it's like kind of dipping into that timeline.
The weird
part-
time.
part-
Yeah. Time.
timeline.
Using
plot
time in a
thing.
narrative is a very, very difficult thing. That's why
I
I
feel
always
like
say Chrono Trigger is like the pinnacle of using time effectively, because it's that idea, like, it keeps it simplistic enough that it's easy to grasp, of going back in time and forward in time, and then like they go too far in time and they realize that the apocalypse happens, but they go too far back in time and realize that, oh, these are the people that caused the apocalypse to happen. And it's like playing on like a central theme of defeating this main villain, but then seeing how that villain affected each part of time, which it keeps it very like kept together. And so like even when you're traveling through time, you're able to understand why you're going those places where I can see for $20.99 it's a little difficult to be like, well then there's this Spider-Man and then that Spider-Man dies, but then like the villain actually is able to go through that timeline and then go the multiple universe dimensions thing is just really
Well, I think with Marvel comics too, it gets really convoluted and like almost unnecessary.
well that's not just Marvel.
That's what it feels
That's
like.
Well,
not just
DC
Mar-
does
yeah.
it too, but like I think
Well, no, and I'm not even saying DC either. Like, in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, one of my favorite villains, one of his like main powers is like to travel through different versions of reality, which is like a cool concept, but sometimes it's like it's getting a little out there in terms of like he's escaping situations. I mean, like it's cool to figure out how they like solve the problem and beat him, but at the same time, it's like this is really out there. In
well, and
terms
I think with
it's-
time travel, it can become like a Deus Ex Machina, where like the only reason they survive or the only reason they're like existing is because they use like some
They
special
do, they
power
have
that
yeah
you
they have
didn't
some
know.
power that's like, oh well, it's like the little kid in the playground when you're like, bang, I shot you. It's like, oh, I have the super shield, you can't shoot me when
And it's
I
like, well,
have the
I
super
have the
shield.
super gun. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I have the super shield, and that
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah. So I mean, it's still super interesting, and I think it's one of those things where it's exactly the podcast and doing it has really challenged me to be better about this. Is I'm not going to set my expectations too high in a way, and not like of, well, it should be better and it should be good, but it's like what I'm willing to chalk up to suspense of disbelief is much higher of like, I'm not reading it for a mind-bending, I'm not reading this specific comic for a mind-bending, brain-altering run. It's
Yeah.
I want to read the aesthetic. I love Spider-Man as a character. It's Spider-Man in the future, like two of my favorite things ever. Let's just enjoy it and stuff like that. So
and I think the thing with comics too, like oftentimes like they're hit or miss when like sometimes you'll be like, oh, this is like a really dope storyline, and then you kind of get into the boring part, and then it kind of like weaves in and out when
Yeah,
it's heavily dependent on like how the writer's framing the story and stuff.
that's what I was
too,
telling one of
so.
my friends too. Is it's like one of my friends was saying that she doesn't really read comics, and I was like, I would like to recommend this one or other ones, but it's like comics are so hard because it's like. Even when I remember when I like watched Winter Soldier, Captain America, I was like, oh, I really want to get into Captain America comics. And there was like 3 or 4 websites where like for literally 20 minutes, I was like, I just want someone to say, you should start with this one. But people were like, if you want like this version of Captain America, if you like the lighthearted, like the really cool old school, start with this one. If you really want the deep, dark, serious stuff, start with this one. If you want, and I'm like, I just want to read Captain America.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like I've said before, like not to be like, manga's the superior medium compared to comic books, but it's like manga itself is each series is like a singular narrative that just stretches over volumes, and they're never really tied to other, I mean, like they can be to other like spin-off stuff, but like for the most part, it's like you get volumes 1 through, it's like Fullmetal Alchemist, you get volumes 1 through 20 something, however many volumes, and then that's the whole story.
right.
Yeah.
Whereas like with comic books, it's like I'm reading Miles Morales right now, which I'll talk about, but it's like I'm reading that, but then it's like, oh well, then like Miles Morales appears in like Spider-Gwen, or like, oh, he's in Gwenpool 2. Oh well, he's getting another movie now. And
Yeah.
he's in the multiverse. It's like it bleeds out, especially for Marvel. It's hard when it bleeds out into so much stuff, because then it makes it just so hard to keep track of stuff.
Yeah. I think in the same way, it's at the same time a thing of I almost prefer that they have that ability though, and that they don't have these strict guidelines of where they can and can't go with the story, because at the end of the day, it's all fake. Like
Well, and I'm not saying they need to be this whole
but
thing,
it's that the majority of people I could feel from the comic community who are super ingrained, and kind of the people who
get
talk
intense,
about the
yeah.
extremes of like different industries, gaming, it's like, you have to be this kind of player, and if you play stuff like this and this, you're not actually all the qualifiers are like, even then going at the
Gatekeepers.
content, or like same thing with music or whatever, like there's this thing of, what doesn't make a lot of sense. Yes, there's all these things that are, oh, well, because there's these hundreds of thousands of different universes, that means there's like hundreds of thousands of ways that this Spider-Man character and his life could be written. But then that also allows for other artists and writers to take it up and do it, and like whatever. Like that's the whole point.
I think that makes the comics industry interesting to me, because like you do get a lot of chaff and a lot of crap, but like as you go along, like you can look up lists of like the good runs and the bad runs, and like
for sure.
But like when there are good runs, they're like super good, and the way they mess with the multiverse and the way they defy like the character's original traits, like Frank Miller in Daredevil, the way he just like changed Stan Lee's iteration of like the Daredevil character, and like you get dope ways of understanding and seeing the characters that you couldn't do if they were finite worlds that they were bound to.
Yeah.
So
no, and I get that too, and I'm not like, I didn't mean to say that to be like, you know, comics can't succeed as a medium, because like,
I mean, obviously they've succeeded for like 80 years.
Yeah, I mean, like, it wouldn't be an industry still if it was falling far short of that. But I think it's more just the difficulty of, for
keeping
me
track
personally,
of it
keeping track.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I'm used to having like a singular narrative and being like, this is it. I just buy the next book. Whereas for this one, it's like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
Which is like, for me being that way, for my past and experience being like, that shouldn't be the case, but comics are just such a different. I think superhero comics specifically. Yeah. Because like there's other comics, like I think it's Scott Pilgrim, where like it's 6 books, you can just buy 6 books and you're done. Or even like Hellboy too, as much as there's different ones you can just buy like.
Well, and the thing about Hellboy is like everything in the Hellboy universe is like written by the same guy. Yeah. He does everything, and so like there are people who get to do interpretations here and there, but for the most part, like he controls the entire universe. So like everything is connected in. So like. There's no discrepancy between like you should read this and this. It's mostly you have to focus on like what to read in what order, but like there's no like reboots, and DC has like 50,000 reboots every 3 years and all this stuff where you're like, which Batman is the real Batman and which one's the one from 10 years ago? And so, but yeah, I feel you with the manga thing. Like, and anytime I find a series that I want to read, it's like, oh, I just read 1 through 20 something and it's done. But there definitely are a ton of comics that are serialized in the same way, like. That I've found. So it just tends to be superheroes that like everybody has a different idea of a story they want to write.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah, I've tried to circumvent that issue by just picking runs where there is a definitive, all right, this one has kind of closed off and it's like here to here. So the newest 2099.
Even with that, we had to like parse through.
We had to like dig through.
Is there 27 or is there 7?
Like
and which ones do I buy?
Issues, but like all the volumes. So like volume 7 is like this issue through this issue. So like, is that everything? So it's like that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I think it's definitively finished.
I feel like the onset to getting into comics is overwhelming. But once you like get into it and you just like dig and you're like figuring out, okay, this one has
almost more enjoyable.
Yeah, you're like, man, I feel like I'm actually a part of the whole thing now, and I like almost figuring it out as a part of like becoming a part of like the comics culture.
Yeah,
so.
I think that is a cool aspect, is that there's no superfluous information in a way. Like some piece of information is like, oh, this is this version of Tony Stark. I'm more interested in reading a Tony that's like closer to the Marvel films, because that's what I really liked. And it's like, oh, if that's the case, there's this Tony and there's these volumes and you can read this, and it's like, he's a little like this. I kind of want to read the old school. So I like that there's places you can ping pong, but I think what's been enjoyable for me is, so I also finished the other 2 big things that I picked up and finished were I picked up Invincible Iron Man and like his whole series. So I have like a big hardcover book. So
it's a hardcover omnibus sort of thing.
It's pretty cool.
Do you have it?
Yeah,
I'll
show
check
you later.
it out after this. Yeah.
So it's cool. So like picking that up and just being like, man, like this is like fun seeing these characters and just experiencing knowing tidbits about them, but then getting to be a part of it, and just I don't know. I'm reading it for the heck of it. Like I'm not reading it for a social cred, and because like I know this stuff better than anybody.
Do it for the podcast, baby.
Do it for the pod.
I do it for the podcast.
I do it for the podcast.
I'm dancing again. So
we need a dancing sound effect. Anyway, so those, and then
That's called
music. Yeah. Touche. There, and then I also finished volume 2 of 3 for Moon Knight, and yeah, it's very fascinating character. I like don't know how to feel about it. Not in a like that he's good or bad, but it's like that's one where it's very tricky, where there feels like there's not a definitive definition of who he is, and the whole premise of his character is he hears voices and there's all this stuff and he's got multiple personalities and stuff like that, but then in some comics they're very clear about that and they kind of set it up, or like which personality is which, and then there's other issues where I would read it and then he's like, this is Jones, and then the guy's talking to him, he's like, now this is Mr. Knight, and then it's like, okay, like I guess, and then it's like, now this is Alfred, and it's like, I'm just throwing out names, but it's that kind of thing where you're like,
he's like, I'm James Jones, like Spider-Man. No, I'm Alfred. I'm Master Wayne.
and Bruce, and so it's very interesting though. The last one I just read was actually pretty cool because all his powers come from the Egyptian god Khonshu, and there's like someone like steals it, and basically kind of like dethrones him, and does that and kind of like tricks the god into giving them their powers or its powers, which it was like I dig that, just that there's like almost if there's an element of that in like a Thor or some of the other deity like superheroes where if their power was coming from something and someone could convince that person or steal that thing.
I mean, that kind of does happen to Thor in the comics. That's how they justified the female Thor becoming a thing, because Thor like lost the ability to hold his hammer because he was no longer like pure or whatever.
Interesting.
You're no longer worthy.
Basically he became no longer worthy, and then this lady like picked up the
This
hammer.
random lady is like, hey, I want to.
I mean, it is a little political, but it's interesting like how they do that sort of thing.
For sure.
That sounds like a dope comic.
Actually, if I can go off of that.
That was pretty much.
And you
Okay.
play Pokemon too, which
And I've been
When are we
head
not
deep
playing
into Red.
Pokemon?
I know, but I've been
it's always a thing.
Yeah, and a quick word on that. It's been very fun playing Red. I actually, this is gonna sound like blasphemy, but I've never played the original games. I've played maybe like an hour of them back in the day, but I've never played them all the way through to try and beat it. And so this is the first time doing it, and I really miss. It was very funny because when I first started, I was like, frick, like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then it was that, duh, you idiot. Like, that's the whole point. And just realizing how much I really miss and want to play a new game that I'm not familiar with or that I haven't experienced, which makes you excited for a new one. But also, it's like, oh, that's why playing Ultra Sun or Ultra Moon was kind of hard because it was coming off of Moon. It's like, It's like the same thing.
It's and one of the things
so
that I was
easy.
saying is it holds your hand so much.
Oh yeah.
Compared to the old games, because I remember like during vacation, spring break, I was actually like playing Ultra. I was like, I haven't played Ultra Sun in a while, and then like as I was playing Ultra Sun, I was like, I kind of want to play Emerald, and then I was just like getting back into Emerald and like, because that's my favorite Pokemon game for the record.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is just so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Which is hard to say because like you don't want to discredit what Pokemon Sun and Moon are doing, because like looking back, as much as it does cater in some ways to old fans, it's really, really meant for kids.
It's geared for getting people into Pokemon
and younger
again.
kids and new fans. So, and I don't blame them for that. But it's
No,
just
totally.
like, and like that's what's gonna happen when you have your creative product like that and you're trying to cater to a new audience. That's just what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Is like some loyalists are gonna get upset. And on that note, I've been reading something very interesting. So I had it for a while, but I just didn't really get into it recently until now, just because like we're talking about superhero stuff. Miles Morales the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. I have a giant book that I brought with me, and I bought the second one just recently. It is really good. I'll start with the negatives and the positives. I think really the only negative I have is that sometimes the dialogue is a little weird, and not like. And it's weird. It's like hard to explain because like you need to like read it to then make it sound like the example I told Josh is like there's a part where Aunt May and Gwen are in Europe after. So the whole premise of this one, I'll say, this is like at the very beginning, so this doesn't spoil anything. In this universe, what happens is Peter Parker dies and like passes away, and Miles Morales is bitten by the radioactive spider because his uncle's like a thief criminal dude, and he stole the spider to like transport to someone, and
Who, fun fact, was played by Donald Glover in Spider-Man: Homecoming. That was actually an Easter egg.
Which if they do a Miles Morales movie, he'll have a very interesting role because Miles' uncle is a very, very big part of the storyline, which is really interesting. And where was I going to go with that? Oh, so there's a scene where Aunt May and Gwen are in France, and then like there's a lady reading a newspaper, and it's like, oh, like the new Spider-Man, like is kind of like the headline, and like the transition's kind of weird because it's like you see the French lady holding it, but then like the next panel is just Aunt May holding it, and then the French lady says like, "What do you do?" And it's like, does she mean like what is she doing or something? Like it was a weird thing of like it sounds dumb, it sounds like a really nitpicky thing, but it's like there's many instances like that where just like someone's response to a situation, or like someone's response to someone's sentence is like, that doesn't, wait, what are they trying to say? What is it? And that's not all the time. That's just like something that like it does kind of throw you off though, because you want to be like, wait, are they making a joke, or is like he just doesn't get what's going on? So like dialogue is an important thing, which I've realized with this one. But outside of that though, I love the art specifically. I mean, like there's two artists that go back and forth between this one. I don't know which one did the part that I liked, but one of the artists that does it is really, really good and looks really nice. And my big praise for it is I was skeptical, and this is gonna sound, and I won't go into the nitty gritty because obviously, you know, we don't want to be too political or too controversial, even though we are a controversial podcast.
Well, Marvel has been under a lot of fire recently to kind of give context of forcing
diversity
from hardcore comic fans who are like the cliche nerd in the basement types.
Yeah,
their side has been, you know, they're trying to put all this identity stuff into this, and like they're just, you know, now Thor's a woman,
literally
and
people
all this
being,
stuff, and so there's like, and this person's like, from the Middle East, and this, and so they're all in a tizzy because
like fun
there's
fact,
more diversity coming into the comics.
Sorry,
Go for it.
I was like, there was.
It's it's just more. It's a very complicated thing because there are people who are genuinely mad because it's like Peter Parker is Peter Parker. Like, don't just get rid of him. And so there is a historical.
And
character.
that's what I was gonna get into. Is
Right.
like the aspect of the controversy that I was seeing is that people were like, "Oh, it's getting rid of Spider-Man. Like, don't replace Spider-Man with someone else," you know. And I went and not being like, "Oh, they're taking with Peter Parker." I actually was like, I remember when I first saw Miles Morales in Ultimate Spider-Man, the cartoon, I was like, oh, actually, like that's an interesting idea, an interesting concept. So I read in not having that vision of like who Peter Parker is supposed to be. And if anything, this comic kind of goes against that opinion of people being like, well, Peter Parker, you know, like them getting rid of Peter Parker is like they're killing Spider-Man, they're taking away Spider-Man. Like it's a discredit or disservice is like the big thing that's thrown around. But what this comic does, which is my favorite aspect of it, is Miles takes up the mantle of Spider-Man, and one of my favorite scenes is he like beats Electro basically, and Nick Fury Spider-Woman gives Miles the suit that he's gonna wear, and she's like once you put this on, she's like, you know the weight of what you're carrying, of like what the legacy that you're carrying on basically, which is really, really cool because what that does is. And then it even goes further because like as Miles is like slinging around being Spider-Man trying to save people, he's like inner monologue trying to talk to himself, figure stuff out, and he's like, okay, how did Peter Parker like handle this villain, or like, okay, I saw a video when Spider-Man fought this dude and stuff like that, and he's like adopting to and trying to figure out without Peter there to walk him through. He's trying to figure out how do I be Spider-Man, and like there's moments too where he's just like, this is so hard. How can I want? And like his dad is like against superheroes and stuff. Miles' dad, and he's like, I wonder if like Spider-Man's dad hated heroes just like mine does, or it's this really. And the reason why I say that that's going against that opinion is like the reason why this story is so good and why I love it is because this is the idea of honoring the Spider-Man hero and legacy, and it's this thing of like Miles is trying to be like Peter Parker, and he's like honoring Peter Parker by trying to, and in doing so, that is inherently honoring Peter Parker, not only Peter Parker, but Spider-Man as a figure.
The history of Spider-Man.
Exactly. And that's what makes the story so interesting is it's like Miles would almost represent like comic culture, people who attach themselves to Spider-Man, not even just like the African-American community. I'd say like anyone, even more so than Peter Parker, because like Peter Parker is still my favorite Spider-Man because he's just that character and who he is. But like Miles is relatable because it's like, if you were thrust into that world, you wouldn't think like, oh, I'm Spider-Man now. You would almost like want to adopt too. You too would want to be like, okay, like how did Peter Parker in the comics act like Spider-Man?
Yeah,
like
he's basically one of us who has become Spider-Man versus like
exactly. But he's not like a Spider-Man fan or anything like that, and that's what makes him interesting. And someone noted is that Miles, the reason why he's so interesting as a Spider-Man is because he's set apart from Peter Parker, and like the only time he ever sees Peter Parker is like when he hears on the news that like, oh, Peter Parker's like in danger from this villain, and then he like goes to the scene and then Peter Parker dies fighting, I forget which villain, but like, yeah, he like sees Peter die and he goes to the funeral and stuff, but that's really it. Okay. And that's like his only connection to him. Whereas like, his family, his friends are all outside Peter Parker's world. But then once he becomes Miles Morales, or once he becomes Spider-Man, everyone around him is like, now he's starting to engage with people that know Spider-Man. And like a lot of people, he like puts on the Halloween costume of just like the regular Spider-Man, and people are like, dude, that's like, it's too soon. Like, that's in bad taste or whatever is like the thing that gets thrown around. And everyone's upset at him for it, even though he's like he's like, oh, I'm good. I think I need to be Spider-Man now. And he's doing a really bad job. And also people are like, who's this fake Spider-Man trying to disregard, Peter Parker's legacy and stuff like that. So yeah, I could go on and on, but really, really good comic. I am starting to get more into, just because we've been talking about comics and stuff. I want to get into more superhero stuff. Yeah.
Phil's on that hype train. Bring him on, boys.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still in my manga. My manga phase is obvious. I mean, not a phase.
I just want you to get Hellboy. I want somebody.
I do want to get Hellboy. It's one I've always had my eye on for a really long time, but I just never. I think it's because if I had like seen it somewhere and been like, oh, Hellboy looks interesting, I probably would have. I actually don't see it anywhere though. Yeah,
it's not often readily available just because of print runs and stuff.
Yeah. So, but I will check that out.
The new omnibus though.
I was gonna mention, and just to tie back your original comments of how you prefaced all of it, was like Miles Morales is black, and so there are a lot of people.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that. He's half black, half Latino.
Yeah, and so everyone was mad because it's like, well, you're killing off the white guy and like forcing all this.
There's literally an
argument.
There's literally an argument someone posted that was like, Spider-Man is white. He needs to be, and it's like, dude.
Yeah, I feel like we could do a whole episode on that.
Oh my god, that would actually be really interesting. Yeah. Especially because I know Glow is teaching Black Panther right now, and like how he was introduced into the Fantastic Four comic and stuff like that, and how things have changed and all that, and so it's very interesting. But I think like, I know we've talked about this before in different contexts, but the idea, I think it was actually when we talked like last year about Homecoming, and Chris actually had a really interesting opinion on it. But like how, what's her face? Mary Jane was going to be black in the movie. And his opinion was like, I've always known, he's like, I'm black. He's like, I've always known Mary Jane is like a white girl with red hair. Like that's what she should be. And I was like, interesting. So it's like a very, it's a very fascinating dynamic in the comic world with that.
And that ties back to like the point I was making with Pokemon, is that it's like when you are trying to cater to new fans or a new group specifically, and Miles Morales, when he's created, he was created with that intention, and that's not a bad thing. There was a guy called the Comic Story and YouTuber, and he was saying like he agrees 100% that like before, like now it's diversity's like all over the place, and it's like people see it as a problem in some cases just because of original characters being lost. But he was saying like diversity inherently is a good thing in comics. It's not a bad 100%. Thing. He said, but the problem, and he was saying like it's not a problem with diversity with a lot of stuff. It's the narrative itself. Yeah. And the one example he was citing was, or that people have been citing, is Riri Williams, something like that.
Who's like the new Iron Man.
She becomes the new Iron Man. She's like a high school girl, African American, and she, becomes Iron Man. But the problem is her intro arc isn't just like, the reason why I like Miles Morales so much, and this is a comparison to character, not at all, race or ethnicity. It's a matter of Miles is introduced in an interesting way because you're seeing his own world outside of everything, outside of Peter Parker, outside of Spider-Man, and like you see him as a character, you see him as an individual, and then he's thrust in, almost like how Peter Parker was initially when he became Spider-Man. Is he was like, you see his own world and he's thrust into it, and then you watch Miles do the same thing, and then you have more of an attachment to him. And like it's an interesting dichotomy of like he doesn't have a relationship with Peter Parker, so he needs to learn it himself how to be Spider-Man. But with Riri Williams, what people have been, I don't know if Williams is her last name, I just know it's Riri. What people have been complaining about is that she like just happens to meet Iron Man once when she was younger, like in a science fair competition or whatever, and then like Iron Man's AI basically just helps her and is like, all right, you're gonna be the next Iron Man basically, and then people were complaining about that being like, it was almost like just a random, like, you're going to be Iron Man. It's forced. Yeah. Yeah. And, we could go on and on about it.
Yeah,
and
we
like
should pocket that for a different.
Yeah. That could be a really, really on topic. But like what I want to conclude with is with just Miles Morales and stuff, like it's a great story. I don't even say that out of like, way to go, diversity. Like, no, it's great. It is a great thing.
What's
that,
the
like,
SJW joke of like everyone's like, yeah, it's great because it's diverse.
'Cause
It's
it's
like
diver-
it's great because Miles is a fantastic character.
Exactly, and that's the point I want to get across, is that it's like I am happy that it's like it is a diverse character that like young African American kids can be like, this is Spider-Man. That's a really cool thing, and that's I would never see that as a negative, because it's like, how terrible would it be of me to go to like a little African American kid that's like, yeah, Miles Morales is like, he's not the real Spider-Man. Like, that's
but like that's what people are doing.
That's
and
what people are
it's- yeah.
doing, which is so dumb.
Yeah.
And that's the comics gatekeepers,
which is why we're hopefully semi-succeeding at this show, is like just being like, chill out, people. Like,
Right.
nothing is sacred to that point.
And that's what I propose with like Miles Morales specifically, is like, you know, appreciate the diversity that's being displayed, but also look outside of that and see what the narrative is. Because like you can take out the diversity, not take out the diversity. You can look past the diversity aspect and look at it logically and critically and be like, okay, but is this a good story? Because like you said, there's a lot of people that are like, well, it's diverse, so it's good. It's like, that's not always the case for some stuff. And I don't even say that for just like superhero comics. That's just stories in general. And the same YouTuber that I quoted before, Comic Storian, last thought to close this out is he was saying, because he was doing an analysis video on this topic specifically of like diversity in Marvel, and he was like, I don't really like Marvel. I don't like Marvel. I don't like DC, but I like good narrative. And he said, and if they provide me with a good narrative, I will appreciate it and read it. And that's how I feel with like the Miles Morales. It's like, it's a good narrative, I will read it. If it was a bad narrative, if it was like a little like if I was like, it's like he's just not really an interesting character, then I wouldn't, obviously I would say that that's a part of the narrative problem, not the diversity aspect. Because that's something that I think people, it is okay for them to critique and say the narrative they have an issue with, but like it's difficult because in the negativity you're like, okay, well, are you latching on to the old Peter Parker and like what you perceive as Spider-Man? Because then that also plays a role in it. You can
It's
just
just
go
comics,
over.
people.
I just appreciate,
I think we should
appreciate
definitely do
good story.
a topic on that, because I think it's
sure.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So,
So hopefully I wasn't too controversial with that, but
no.
I do love Miles Morales. He's a great Spider-Man, and I love comics, so check that out.
Cool.
And I don't know if I did it. Watch the first episode of season 2 of Daredevil,
that meat hook.
and then got you.
He's just one man.
Bang.
That season is intense.
Yeah, no,
The
it's
fight scenes are just choreographed so well, in my opinion.
I love. Yeah, Daredevil is probably one. Daredevil and Stranger Things are my 2 favorite live action shows. So both very good. And then finally finished Violet Evergarden, and I've talked about that enough. So I'll just
Cool.
it was a very satisfying ending. There was some stuff where I was like, wasn't too happy that was in there, but I could appreciate what the ending was, because it was like an anime. It was originally a book that translated into an anime, and like they did their own thing with it, and I liked it. So
Nice.
it was. I still recommend that show 100%. Very good.
Cool.
So yeah, that's about it.
Nice. I'll do mine quick, and then we can discuss the summer a bit.
How much time do we have?
So this is awkward.
Oh no.
No, I'm kidding. We're at an hour.
Okay.
Sitting tight.
I'll do mine quick, and then we can do like half an hour of whatever.
Yeah.
So I've been reading one called East of West, which is a futuristic, post-apocalyptic, almost like religious, western-y type
is it called?
story. East of West.
East of West.
It's really good. It's basically about this it's called The Message, and it's like this cult thing.
Ooh,
And
you got me hooked.
Yeah, basically 3 out of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are like have like this group of like basically like the presidents of each of the different nations that separated off after like the world crumbled, and they basically have like this secretive culty like almost Illuminati thing where like they're trying to institute the end of the world based on this message, and you don't know what the message is, but you get pieces of it as you go.
Right.
But for some reason, Death has decided like he doesn't want to do this. So you kind of get this dual narrative of you're following the 3 of them and their plans, and then you're following Death as he's like off doing his own thing. And Death is basically like this dude donned in all white, and he's just like his face, his hair, his clothes are just all white. So it's like the antithesis of what you'd imagine Death being like. And it's very interesting because the other 3 like resurrected, and so they're really young. But Death like didn't get resurrected at the beginning of the story like the other 3, so they're like trying to figure out like why he didn't follow them. And so it's like this dual narrative between those two. And it's
That sounds
fascinating.
really, really interesting.
Because basically Death is like a cowboy, and he's got like pistols, and he's got like this. He's got like these two sidekicks. Like one of them's like this big buff like Native American dude who can like transform into wolves, like this whole pack of wolves, and then some other lady who can turn into like a murder of crows and just like so it's dope, and it's like Western-y style. I like Western things, so it's pretty dope. I found this YouTube channel called Imperious Rex, and it's just these two guys who. It's kind of funny because it's like the exact same thing we did. Like it's just two guys who met every week to like talk about pop culture and comics and stuff. They mostly focus on comics, and they basically were like, well, we're already meeting every week and just talking about random stuff, so we might as well turn the camera on and do it. And so I found them. They're pretty goofy.
Nice.
They have a pretty similar style of humor as us. I've been
So
reading
bad jokes and coughs to
bad
mask
jokes,
our
yeah, coughs,
bad jokes.
and they drink beer while doing it, so it gets
Impersonations.
kind of funny, yeah.
Little Peter.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan.
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 I've been reading a comic called Lobster Johnson. No more needs to be said
Wait,
about
is
that.
his Johnson a lobster? Is his last name?
Is he
Johnson?
is he
He's-
like a lobsterman, like he catches lobster, or is he a lobster named Johnson?
So he's part of the Hellboy universe,
Okay.
and in Hellboy's timeline, like he's just a comic character. Like people just think he wasn't real, and he's just like a fictional comic character. Like there's a picture of Hellboy who dressed up as him as a kid. Like he's just basically a superhero. He's got like a lobster claw on his chest. He's just a dude. He's kind of like Captain America. He's just like strong and he fights, and he's got like a lobster thing on his hand, and he just burns the lobster symbol into people's foreheads as he takes them down. And he's kind of like,
Nice.
That's awesome.
but like he's basically actually a real guy. And so
Yeah.
like in one of the Hellboy comics, you meet him because he like wakes up after like 100 years or whatever, and he's like, "Where am I?" And he like helps Hellboy like defeat this guy or whatever. And so I was like, "That's interesting." And I found out there's actually comics about him, and so I got a couple of the first comics, and it's pretty funny. It's like really pulpy like action style comics. Like it's got like a just like actiony feel to it, and he like. His quotes are just hilarious. He like talks about like the left hand of justice or like the lobster claw, and it's just like goofy and funny, and he's like a funny
Nice.
character. I actually I got a pop Funko of him because
Nice.
I thought he was so cool. So
Lobster Johnson.
Lobster Johnson.
I love it.
So I've been reading that. Frank Turner, one of my favorite musicians, released a new album, so I've been listening to that called "Be More Kind," and then new Five Finger song.
Yeah,
That's
really
It's
good.
got a good old school
Really
Five Finger
good.
feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started My Hero Academia, the manga.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, that's
more people need. Well, I mean, like everyone already knows about it, but
Yeah, we've talked about it quite a bit, so it's good. I like the first volume, so I've got the next two rented from the library, so
Very
I'm gonna
good.
keep going.
Very
Hey,
good.
I'll probably start the show or something and see if I need to
the
continue.
dub is really good.
Yeah,
I
you
recommend.
honestly could just do. Well, I mean, like you can choose between one depending on time, but like you could do both. Like just read
Yeah,
the manga and then
That's
be
the
like
thing is like
read the manga, watch the show, and then be
yeah.
like, which one do I like more?
Yeah, that's the thing is I have so many other things I want to read that if I'm gonna watch a show, I might as well just watch that and then. But we'll see what happens. See what
Yeah.
happens. So that's what I've been up to.
Yo, folks, we're going to talk about this summer.
The summer. We already went over
Yes.
Summertime.
podcast plans,
Yep.
and we talked a lot about what we've been up to, but are there any things that you guys are specifically looking forward to doing this summer, catching up on shows or games or whatever, or
Creating.
I think it's-
or we could just go into like what
I
we
think we
want
should go
to
into-
just what we're
Yeah,
gonna
because
do.
we
Like
kind
what
of
we
talked a
wanna
lot
do.
about like what we've been into. I think we're
Yeah.
just gonna keep watching
That's
and
gonna
reading
be
what we've
carrying
been.
through. I'm gonna play a
Yeah.
lot of Pokemon. I'm gonna be tuned in hardcore to E3, especially this year.
We'll
I'm
be
gonna-
podcasting about that for sure.
Oh yes.
Yeah, who are we gonna have on for that one? Maybe Tom.
I
Are
might
we
have
getting Tom and Chris
I
on
might
at
have
the same
Tom.
time?
Oh gosh. I don't know if the world can
That'd be like a
handle that.
3-hour podcast.
Yeah. I think it'd be fun to have Tom on for the talk about the Nintendo one,
Yeah.
and then have Chris on to talk about the Microsoft one because I know he's more Xbox leaning.
We're all three of
Then we
us
could
just
talk
gonna be like,
PS4.
yeah,
Mhm,
and then he's gonna
mhm.
share his opinions, and we're like, but dude, Nintendo showed the new Smash Bros. Yeah,
No, I want Microsoft to do well, and I really hope that this year
but they're not.
they have some good stuff to show. But objectively,
4K.
But
Yeah,
they,
I'm interested to see what they'll show.
Yeah,
because
like, I
they've got some
genuinely want
games
them
coming out this
to-
year, but it's kind of
do
just like
stuff.
yeah.
But like they are getting decimated by exclusives. The Switch is only getting better. They're about to
Yeah.
launch a whole bunch of games this summer. There's some that haven't even been given dates to come out this year
Yeah.
yet, but are coming. Like I don't know what they're doing unless.
Yeah.
I mean,
We'll see
they're
what
doing some
happens.
cool stuff with backwards compatibility, which is almost convincing me to.
Well, I think if of all the things that Microsoft is doing right, it's backwards compatibility.
Right.
Like,
But then I'm not.
but it's not a
How
it's
much
not
should
a
I want to
console
buy your
seller.
system? Yeah, it's
But
like,
it
how much
is
should I
it
wanna
is
buy your
something other
system for
people
that?
should be doing.
Yes.
I think PlayStation should get on the backwards train to some extent. Because
Switch can't really do that because it doesn't have a
Switch is
disc.
bound by
Virtual console.
Virtual
Bro?
Console.
Yeah, it's not bad. Well, that's not backwards compatible. That's just online. They
See,
need
I'm
Same
like
thing.
itching for that Virtual Console
Oh,
because
dude,
I haven't really
I'm
been playing
dying.
my Switch much, and I would love to have some like old school stuff to finally like. If I could play
Yep.
Pokemon Blue on the Switch,
Oh, dude,
I
that
would
would
just-
be.
I don't even need any more games. Just leave me there to die.
Yeah.
I'll play Pokemon Blue.
Right.
bury me with my Switch.
My
I'm a simple
prediction
man.
is that they're gonna wait until a couple of their. My prediction is they're gonna wait until all the games they announced at the May launch 2 years ago when they were, or the showcase when they
Yeah.
were, touting all the games that are gonna be coming out. So like I think the new No More Heroes game, once that comes out, and I don't know about the new Shinigami Tensei, maybe not that one, but there's a handful that they announced that are probably gonna come out this year, and I'm betting that there's going to be a huge pocket of time where there's going to be no big Nintendo games that are coming out, which I think is going to start next year. And once that starts, that's when the virtual console.
I bet you it will. Yeah.
Just because right now people are just wanting games, and so you have like Tropical Freeze just came out,
Yep.
Donkey Kong from the Wii U. You've got Smash is supposed to come out this year, potentially a new Pokemon game.
Hopefully
No More
they'll
Heroes.
say something about Metroid 4.
Yeah, like Metroid 4 is in the works.
Prime
Metroid
4.
4. So there's so much stuff that they have coming down the pipes that people are literally clamoring for. I cannot wait for World Ends With You to come to Switch.
Yes.
I'm dying. Like I literally cannot wait for that. And
It's gonna
then
be so freaking
That'll
good.
be fun.
so there's a lot of stuff that's gonna buy a lot of time, and I think a lot of people are gonna get. And the Switch is only
Yeah.
selling more and more and
Oh,
doing
yeah.
better and better. And it sounds like Labo was a huge hit, which I was like, good on you, folks. This is
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen some people make like dubstep tracks using the
Really?
little piano thing. Yeah, it's crazy what you can do with it. So,
Dang.
but to answer what this summer,
This summer, creative,
this
whatever.
summer, I'm at a loss right now what I'm gonna do, because this is the first summer I
am
don't have a
lost.
break. You know, like it's not a summer break.
Mhm.
Corporate world. Ugh.
Yeah.
But I think
I'm
what I
hungry.
really want to do is I'm on the verge of hanging up my gamer cape for a good while. Not completely, but just like putting the 40-hour, like Far Cry 5s type games and Horizons and some of those other ones, and just kind of setting them off to the side. But I'm thinking of getting back into Overwatch, because it's like one of those games you can play a couple matches, stay relevant with it, and kind of call it quits. Or like with Pokemon, I can play it for an hour and be good.
Yeah.
But with time becoming more constrained, and there's a lot of stuff that I want to finalize and make, and I'm on the verge of finalizing and finishing. It's like I just want to get it done and make it and go on to the next thing. So I've
Yeah.
got some writing projects that I'm working on that I'm really
Dope.
excited about. So
Cool.
Ringside.
Ringside.
Stay tuned.
It's gonna be great.
It's it's a story I'm working on where it's basically like an homage to Hot Rod. So like the ridiculous style.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But then it's but instead of it being about a kid who wants to be a stuntman, it's about a kid who thinks he sucks at everything, but he loves wrestling, but he realizes that his only way to get good, or he thinks the only thing for him to do is, instead of trying to keep getting better at something, is to make something that he can rig to be the best at. And so he starts a backyard wrestling league in his neighborhood, because he's like, well, I'm never going to even make it to the D League of professional wrestling, but I guarantee you I could fake out wrestle the kids in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so then he like fake out wrestles these kids in his
Tournament.
neighborhood.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So
gonna be great.
there's a great
Nice.
cast of characters and all that good stuff. That's all.
Very nice.
That's what I'm working on. Copyrighted Josh K. Madison, Wisconsin.
Very good.
So if I see anything that comes out that's called Ringside, and it's any I'm gonna sue the
Relation to
pants off
wrestling.
somebody.
There's got to be some wrestling.
Written
thing
by
called
Phil
Ringside.
Sorensen.
Yep. You like go on Amazon and it's like about the author, and you like have a nice picture of Phil, and then it just says like
there's like
Phil was
interviews
bo-
on YouTube with me, like I just
I had
dreamt it
this
up one day.
great
I just had a
idea.
dream.
Yeah,
like,
I love Hot Rod. It's one of my favorite movies ever.
and it's like, and now it's apparently like the major motion picture. Like, are you excited about the process?
like how involved are you in it? Like, oh yeah, I'm pretty heavily involved. Like,
yeah.
then you're like, I didn't even finish writing it.
But yeah, no, it's one of those stories I'm excited about because I had envisioned it being a short film a couple summers ago, and I had a bunch of friends already mentally cast as some of the characters, some of which are listeners. But
Or present.
yeah, I actually had envisioned Zach as being the kid who sucks at everything, and he was gonna, I like legit, he was gonna be the one who like wasn't good at anything, and he was gonna start this fake wrestling league and do that.
That's great.
And our boy Jake was actually gonna be his mentor and his coach. And I got that idea because there was one time when we lived together at the Pent. It was like 2 a.m. and we had just gone to Quick Trip for like the 5th time that night. And so we were like goofing around and just laughing super hard in the living room. And out of nowhere, Jake was like, I want to show you guys something. He's like, someone lay on the ground. We're like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, it's my wrestling move. We're like, oh, that sounds great. I was like, I'll do it. Because I was, I'm hyper. And so I'm like, all right, what's going on? And then he like pulls my legs in this thing and starts pulling. I'm like, I'm gonna rip in half. Like, oh my gosh. And it was terrible. I was like, this is horrible. And ever since then, I was like, Jake is gonna be a fake wrestling coach.
Yep.
For WWE wrestlers.
That's awesome.
It's gonna be
So,
great.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So my stretch goal is to try and get a draft done of that by the end of the summer. I think it's definitely possible. It's more of my will and my
Gotta keep
energy.
meeting up.
Yep.
That creative juice is flowing.
So
Creative
that's
juices.
my summer.
Cool.
Nice.
This summer.
This summer.
Coming this summer, Ringside.
Ringside.
Written by Phil Sorensen.
I will kill
Ghost
you.
written.
Ghost
Written by Josh Cook. What about you?
What about me? I have a couple things in mind. So I too, I don't know if I've shared it. I wanted to be a part of the creative podcast because it's
I know
like
you never got
I
in
like-
on that.
I like
it's not really a
creating
podcast.
stuff.
We just meet
or
up and-
episode. Yeah,
I
that
know we were
episode.
like, hey.
we did do a podcast on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll,
the
have to,
episode
we'll do a
about
follow up
10.
and
It'll
dig
be
deep.
102 or it'll
Yeah.
be 201.
201.
I mean, I don't know how much I'd be able to contribute, but like I like writing story stuff, so I too would like to, contribute my thoughts and stuff. So that ties into what I want to do over the summer. I've had 2 big story ideas. One of them recently that I've been like writing over the course of the semester. I want to keep working on, and so as I've already said, I'm a huge manga nerd. So my dream ever since I was in the 5th grade was to write like my own manga story and do the art for that. But this is the problem I was running into. I grew so much in story writing. Josh can maybe testify. I've been doing pretty well with that. Just like typing out. I have like probably like 60 pages worth of idea stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Over the course, like 2 full stories that I've been writing about.
That sounds dope.
Yeah. But the problem is I'm much better now, but I sucked at drawing. Like I look at my middle school stuff and I'm like, ugh, no. Like that's shameful, like like cringing at my older self. Like why
Yeah.
did I even think I was good at that? But recently and this is a testimony for all you people that think you can't be creative, just go for it and try it. And you don't need to show it to anyone. You don't need to like, and I mean, like if you know someone will encourage you in it, obviously show it to them to bolster your motivation. But at the same time, you're doing this for yourself. You're growing in a creative medium.
Yep.
And that's what I realized with drawing is like, at first I was like, it took me like 3 hours to draw this one picture. And I was like, oh wow, I actually drew something. And I like, sweat from my brow. Like I did it. I created. and I was like happy. And that spurred me on to be like, oh, I can actually draw.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I always had the mental block of I can't draw, therefore I shouldn't draw. But then as soon as I got past that and was like, I'm just going to try putting pencil to paper and just doing something, and then like looking at other artists, seeing how they do stuff and anatomy tips, blah, 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 and all that. And I'm like, the more and more I started just pursuing the more and more I just started drawing what came to my head. I was like, wow, I'm actually good at this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't say that boastfully at all. I have a long, long way to go. But
The excitement of having a success.
the excitement of having a success, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I had my close friend Bakari, who's an amazing artist.
He's someone we're going to interview.
Yes.
I want to reach out to him because he's studying game design right now,
Mhm.
isn't he?
And he has an idea for a video game he wants to make. So
Sounds
we're
dope.
gonna be meeting up. We're gonna do what you guys have been doing as creative meetings over
Oh,
the
really?
summer. Yeah.
That's cool, dude.
And
It's
so we're
actually
gonna,
really helpful. So
Yeah.
so we're gonna bounce ideas off each other for our stuff. To briefly summarize the story I wanted to do, According to our father, because I shared it with him, it's a little a la Black from Ted Dekker. What's that book? Like Black,
Yeah.
Red. It's not. I don't know if you know it.
I've never
It's
read
a
it,
trilogy.
but
It's like
I've
his
heard
most
of it.
famous
trilogy.
trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little similar. I think there's differences and stuff, and like, I don't want to say it's a copy off because I haven't read it. So therefore,
Well, there's
it can't
nothing
be-
wrong with copying things as long as you like do your own thing.
Right, exactly, and it is. It's separate from what I've heard. Like the
I mean,
premise
if
of
you've
that
never
story is
read it, then there's no way you copied it. 'cause,
exactly.
like-
Yeah, the whole premise is that it takes place in Tokyo, obviously, because like that's a setting I'd be familiar with, and I want to be able to like draw the cityscape and stuff would be really cool. The whole premise is that this young girl, high school girl,
Classic.
yeah, it's such an anime trope, but she is in this kind of mind state of like moving on to the next period of college and stuff. And I know in Japan I've talked to a lot of people where it's like you kind of go to college just to screw around, and then after that you just force yourself into the business world. And she's kind of in that state of like, I don't want to just follow the trope, I
Wait,
don't
so
know.
people in Japan do that too? Like it's
Mhm.
kind of just colleges just screwing around and partying and whatnot.
Basically, yeah.
And then-
Sounds
and
familiar.
then
Like
yeah.
people say college is easier than high school.
Really?
Like here we kind of say that, but I think like college induces more stress in a general sense, like with finals and grades and stuff and the importance of it. But over there, it's like you try super, super, super hard in high school, and then when you graduate and go to college, you just
It's
like
kind of just like
it's like, all right, let me take a
Interesting.
break. So that's kind of the mindset, and she has people in her life that she sees, and she's like, I don't want to just follow this step by step plan process, but she also doesn't know what she wants to do with her life, and the whole conflict of the story is that sin is embodied as like a virus, and it's almost like an overtaking thing. It's not just like, oh, someone was doing evil so they feel sick. It's like a thing of like when they become too encompassed in sin, quote unquote, it's like it envelops them and they become demonized, or they become monsters in their own right or whatever. And so it's like but it's like an infection though that's spreading across people, and there's like whole differentiations of like people that are able to control it, people that lose their wills to it, people that become entirely different people because of it, all this back and forth of
Interesting.
the morality of it and stuff like that. And it'll be closely tied to Bible stuff, but it's not going to be this like Jesus is going to come and save everyone. It's like, and I've told Josh the ending to my thing, it gets pretty, I'm trying to make it pretty serious in terms of like,
Are you going for like a dark like horror almost?
yes and no. It's like, it's very, the way I have it set out at like for the earlier parts is it's a little just kind of chaotic and crazy, which is like, I love that in anime shows of like just pure enjoyment and adrenaline and craziness, like can be a fun narrative to read, but like I want it to like, as the story goes on, the conflict to be more serious and thusly becomes more like of a threat. So like sin is the thing, like it's like, oh, it'll be almost like this extravagant thing at first to be like, oh, it's like, the evil that we have to stop, but then you start to realize that there's much more tied to it than just like the evil force. It's like, originally how did it become a virus in the first place originally, like who was the first person that brought it, and like why is it spreading in Tokyo specifically, and different stuff like that.
Interesting.
And yeah, so
Are there a lot of, because I don't know much about like the manga world, but are there a lot of like manga or anime that are written by like Western people, or like do you think
not-
that's a big mantle to take up?
I think it's kind of a big mantle because like I know manga is a super, super hard industry, and like that's why this is like a real stretch goal. This isn't to be like I'm gonna spend all my time writing a manga. This is like just what I'll be doing in my creative free time.
Okay.
But yeah, because it's a really hard industry. But something that really gave me inspiration is apparently in Viz Media there was some competition for like doing one shot stories, and there was a girl who, I think she was American. She was like Asian, but Asian American, I think. Won the competition and stuff, and it was like translating Japanese. This really cool looking story about like alien invasion and whatnot. And I read her bio, and it was literally just said verbatim like, so and so was inspired by watching Naruto and One Piece as a kid, and decided to teach herself how to do drawing, and then wrote her own story. And I was like, that is exactly what I'm doing right now. So
That's cool.
seeing someone actually have success in that, I was like, oh, maybe I can
Yeah.
do
I
the
feel
same
like
thing too.
I feel like
So-
if you can do it right too, like that's a market that isn't really tapped. So like if you can write the right story and do the right art, like it could end up being really
exactly, and that's
So-
that's why I'm really trying. I'm not, because like I don't want to say my goal for the summer is to write the manga itself, because like I have a long way to go as an artist.
Yeah.
Like I'm honestly giving myself like 2 years to improve, to get to a point where I can actually start doing. And I
Yeah.
mean, like, not to say that I won't do stuff now, but it's like to actually push and be like, all right, now I'm gonna start getting serious
Actually
with it.
getting it down.
I need to prove a lot as an artist too, and some story stuff
Cool.
also. But yeah, it's something that the characters I envision and stuff have been really fun to come up with, and just like this kind of the big focus of the story is more so the characters and their interactions and stuff with like the conflict at large, but also each other, which has been a driving force for it. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. It'll be
Dang.
fun.
Nice.
That's cool.
So, thank you.
Copyright Zach Cook,
Yep, copyright Zach Cook,
2018, Madison,
Madison, well,
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
yeah, Mequon, Wisconsin.
Mequon.
Miquon.
Nice. That's cool.
How about you? I know you want to pitch your idea.
Yeah, I've got a couple things. So first, the easy part to explain is I'm working on some music right now. I've got probably, I think by the end of this week, I'll have 6 or 7 songs like in like the 50 to 60% finish range.
Nice.
So like the songs will be done, but they need lyric work and they need like pre-production work with like, I'll work with Isaac or something to get more instrumentals and stuff. My goal is to probably get like 13 in that state by the end of the year, and then maybe another 7 that are just like half ideas just to have as backups. So like 20-ish songs to like, and then refine it down to like 12 or 13 for an album to release next year. So I've been cranking those out. Been slacking a little bit lately, but I've been trying to read more and learn how to write narratives because I'm also working on this new idea. It's kind of like, in my mind, I visualize it as like a techno-Roman kind of society. So like it's one part like cyberpunk, but also like one part like mythological almost. And so I want to tell it through the perspective of like 12 stories, and they're being told like way far in the future as like mythology basically, but like the story itself will take place in the time, and it'll be like a jumping from like the storyteller to the actual story.
That'd be cool.
And the story, I haven't fleshed out like the conflict or why these things are happening yet, but like the basic world is like there's 12 people who kind of like control like major industries in this city. And I haven't decided if it's one city or many cities or what the actual setting will end up being, but the basic premise is there's 12 people who like control different industries. And those 12 people are like analogs for like the Greek and Roman gods. And ironic enough, there are actually 12 of them. So it works out for my plans. But so it's like the 12 gods, and then like the main character will be like an analog for Hercules or Heracles, however you want to pronounce it.
Well, they're two different people.
What?
Heracles
And
Hercules
Hercules
are
is
two
just the Romanized version of Heracles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
But the main character will be an analog for him, and he'll be kind of like the people will be godlike, but it'll be like through technology. So like they'll be like like technological, whatever. Like so this Heracles character will be like he'll be born like half god, half human in this world. And he'll grow up in one of like the outcast districts outside of the city, which I'll probably. There's so many ideas out there, but
yeah, it was hard for me too, being like,
Yeah.
okay, well then it's hard because like I think we can probably testify, all of us, like we see the whole narrative that we've created. Because like even when I was saying like, oh, but it gets really dark, I was literally about to be like, okay, so the main villain does, and then like give away the whole giant thing. But if this does become a thing, I don't want to share.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like in conflict too, it's hard.
And so like I envision it being like the city or multiple cities, and then like outcast zones where like people were kind of like pushed out of the city for one reason or another, and they're existing in like these kind of like poor like districts or whatever. And I think I'm gonna make it so there's 7 of them, probably based off of like the 7 churches of Revelation. So I'm really going with the mythological religion stuff, and that's all just in my head, and I'm not gonna make it like as explicitly like this is this. It'll be be more like if you know about it, then you'll kind of pick up on it, but it's not gonna be like this is the Church of Ephesus.
That's what I've been having a hard time with my stories. It's like tying in, because like obviously the main character gets wrapped up in like the quote unquote world of sin and like experiencing like what it mandates and like how it functions. But the problem I'm having is it's like, okay, I obviously want to pull from biblical context, not entirely to be like, then there'll be like Jesus, like I said before, Jesus Christ comes and just like takes his AK and shoots all the sin away.
South Park
style, yeah. But like the thing too is like I do want to pull the interesting aspects, because even in like, that's why I find some cults so interesting, is because like literally some of the biggest cults have like thrived because they just pull passages from Revelation and are like, this is what this means. This is what, like, misinterpretation almost.
Yeah.
And I think and I don't know about you, if like you'll have like a biblical text or whatever. Like, I don't think I'll have anything like that in mine.
Well,
but
I
it's
think
difficult
for
to-
me, like, I'm kind of planning on playing off of like the Revelation narrative in some ways. Like, the reason these people were kicked out is for the reasons specifically tied to each of these things.
Right.
And maybe like this group of 12 people who believe they're like the true like gods of the world or whatever will have pushed these people out because of one reason or another. And basically like the main character will have grown up in one of these like 7 districts, and then he'll have to like, and basically the 12 stories
And then he
are,
says, I volunteer as tribute for the Hunger Games.
I mean, I was kind of thinking about it last night. I'm like, frig, this is the Hunger Games.
No, it's just because you said district like that. That's
Well,
not really.
yeah, and I was kind of thinking like there's 12 districts in Hunger Games, but I'm envisioning it more like the story's not about him growing up. The story's not about like whatever, like it'll be 12 mythological tales surround like basically analogs for like Heracles' 12 trials that he goes through.
Yeah.
And so I'll take like each one of the gods and it'll be kind of his like narrative of how he like either has to kill them or bring them to his side or whatever. And so it'll be,
Yeah.
I don't know what the point is yet or like why I want it, because I don't want it to be like action story. It's just like Kratos killing every god. I want it to
You
have
can
like,
have some fun action, though.
well, I want it to have fun action, but I want there to be a point to the story. Like,
yeah.
and I think for me, like I just am fascinated with mythology and religion and like how religions are created and understood and how storytelling works. So I want to like play with that more. So
Yeah. I get that.
yeah, so
It's hard to have like a central theme to. The real thing I have for mine is just like, because like I gave that preface of, she is sorry, this is just bouncing back and
No,
forth.
it's all
That's cool. Because like I gave the preface of like, she wants more out of life basically, and she follows this path of like, oh, I'm gonna defeat sin. But like I think the main point of the story is that it's like a slow but sure realization of that it's not as cut and dry of just good fighting evil, and which is I always think is a really interesting thing in superhero stuff. And then it also becomes more a thing of like, is this really what she wants to like it answers the big question of like, how do you want to live your life, but at the same time, like, is the life you're living worth it, or is the life you're living like having an impact and stuff like that? And I think that's like the main theme I wanted to tackle.
to be honest, I think that's kind of what I'm going for too.
I mean, that's a general
which
thing.
is a pretty
That's
common theme.
Yeah,
I
it's a
kind of want to
general
mess
thing.
with like existentialist ideas of like, well, what is your purpose? And almost like through the trials, he'll realize like he's been seeking the wrong thing this whole time, and basically he'll find out things about himself as he meets each of the quote unquote gods.
When
And
you can tie that theme to basically any creative medium, and it's like the way you make it interesting is you don't put out exactly like she finds her meaning of her existence, or like Heracles discovers what it means to be human.
Yeah.
Like you want to go on much more in depth of, even if that is the theme, you want to make the journey interesting.
Yeah,
and
the journey is about fleshing out the theme.
Yeah.
And which, I mean, that's kind of like a classic cyberpunk trope of like, what does it mean to be human? So it'll almost be playing with that, but not like explicitly like with the android.
But it's like a deity mixed.
It's like a deity who's also like, I was trying to explain it to Evan. She's like, so is it just an android? I'm like, in my mind, it's like technology, but it's not really an android. It's like they've almost ascended to like an actual, because of technology, they've been able to actually become like gods, basically.
Which will happen.
Yeah. And so it'll almost
It's
be like
coming.
a tale of like human beings striving to be God. And
I
so,
dig it.
and I think I'm going to start with something like that since the dawn of time.
Since the dawn of
Yeah,
time,
Morgan
Human
Freeman
beings
voiced the
have wanted to become
man
God,
has been
some sort of thing.
obsessed with technology.
So,
From the Nintendo system to AI programming, the world has been enveloped in an evil technological darkness.
From Atari to Jarvis.
Master Wayne.
so yeah,
The world
that's-
has gone
that's
mad,
my
Master
idea.
Wayne.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm legit excited to see what you do with that, because I think that could be such a cool.
I'm pumped, yeah. Because it's funny, because at Blackhawk today, the whole next series is about like spiritual warfare, and the whole time I was
Ooh.
just like thinking of ideas and stuff.
Dude, that's
like,
what
oh,
happens to
man,
me all
like,
the time.
I should listen to that too.
Yeah, it's interesting. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
dig it.
I'm excited.
We'll have
That's
to
the
do
first story idea where I'm just like actually excited about writing it. So.
Yeah, and I think it was Stephen King. I heard in an interview where he said he doesn't note take on story ideas he has. His philosophy is, if it's good enough for me to write, it sticks in my head and I can't get it out. And so if it hangs around long enough, then that means I need to write it, because there's something there.
Something. There.
But if it's stupid and it's dumb,
then I'll forget about it. In
Yeah,
3
it's
days,
like your classic word. It's chaff, and I'm not gonna
Yeah.
put chaff on the page.
Yeah.
So
Chaff.
Chaff. Separate the wheat from the chaff.
separate away from.
So
chaff.
yeah, I'm excited. So
Cool.
Yeah, me too. Growing in both art and story drawing.
yeah,
It'll
and that's one thing I want to do this summer too, is learn how to draw, because I would love to turn this story into like 12 series graphic novel. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about. There's part of me that was like, it would be kind of fun to, I don't want to say revolutionize, but to add some kind of touch to comics and almost make like a slightly animated comic where you could go like
you can do an
panel by
animatic.
panel.
Yeah.
And so it's like if you look at it, it's not necessarily like everyone's like moving and running and then it like freeze frames, which that could be really cool. That'd take freaking forever. But
no,
if
but
it's
I've
like,
seen that stuff. If like they make it's like it is called an animatic, where it's like you have an image like kind of come up, you see like the words almost like in a game, like just slowly line up and like you read along, and then like another character appears, but it's not like they're jumping in and like moving all around and going crazy. It's just like almost still
It's just a
images
visual
coming into
graphic
place and stuff
novel,
like that.
basically.
Yeah.
right, like
Yeah.
I'm envisioning like, if someone's throwing a punch, it's like you're not going to see the guy reel back and then clock him, but it would be like it's like how it is in the comic where it's at the point in the action where they want to showcase.
You use the
but then
lines across the
everything-
fist. and
But then
punch
everything
things.
like moves. So if it's like that guy getting hit, it's like the fist would be, maybe curled in and it would be sliding to the left.
Yeah.
And then the guy would be sliding to the left and maybe like spit flying off.
well, I think that for me, that's the fun part about comics though, is like
Reading the stills.
the ability to draw emotion into still photos.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are good at it, but a lot of people
Are not.
It's, a lot of people, it's kind of just like they're just painting like almost like centerfold pictures.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Which is
like
what's
this is just a still, but like
that
some
happens a lot
comics,
in
like,
super. Yeah.
yeah, you get dope motion. You're like, I can tell exactly where they're moving and what they're doing, which Hellboy
Yeah.
does a lot. So
Yeah,
That's-
there's-
yeah.
I
There's
also-
some comics. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's all good. I was gonna say, like, going off that train, that I was flipping through it. I also picked up, I didn't mention this earlier, but I also picked up Welcome Back, Frank, which is one of the best Punisher
yeah.
series, and I was reading the first couple pages just to like see if I wanted to pick it up, and it's literally him, and he's just killed a bunch of mob guys, and he leaves one guy alive, and he basically gives him an ultimatum of like, quit doing what you're doing or I'm coming for you, and he leaves, and he just like walks out. So the guy literally is like, dude, you'll never believe this, there's all this stuff, blah blah blah, all these guys are dead, but I still have all this coke, we're gonna move it, and like basically like doesn't listen to it. And so there's a 3-step panel where it's like it's black behind him and he's like telling the guy, and then the next one you just see the Punisher skull in the frame and him in the shadows, and then the next frame is him and he's got his hands on his skull and he's like, I gotta go, Tim. And like you're like, no, he's so screwed. But like things like that where it is, I do think that is absolutely the skill and the talent of a comic artist and writer is to
Create motion,
block
without
out how
having-
that and like
There's
what it
there's
looks
so
like.
much things that go into like I was actually doing that for one of my papers for my class of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is still probably like my favorite American comic just because it's technically Canadian wrote it, but like comic outside of like the superhero genre just because like it's full of pop culture and I love the humor. But like there is one of my favorite panels that I was analyzing is like it's when the band of the comic Sex Bomb, which is a wonderful name, they're like playing a song and stuff like that, and like they actually have like the lyrics that they're singing in like in between the spaces. But then like if you look closely, it's like Scott's first girlfriend Knives. You like see it's like slowly zooming in on her face like as panels go, and it's like her face is getting more starry-eyed and like, oh, this is so cool. And if you look, it's almost like as she's like, it's, you can picture it in your head of like as she's listening to the lyrics, the more and more she's becoming enamored with the band and stuff like that. So like all those little things in comics are just so cool, and which I would love to replicate. That's why like I am giving myself a lot of time to
That's
improve
why I'm
my
just
skill.
reading tons of comics and immersing myself in.
That's
world,
why
so,
I just want to know how to do.
yeah, I mean it is. It's like
Yeah,
and that's why like I'm doing a similar thing with video games, like kind of putting up the mantle for a while because like I love playing video games, but I usually play them to like veg out and not really like focus on story and stuff. But like when I'm reading comics, I'm technically like vegging out and not really doing a whole lot. But like I'm incorporating a lot of these ideas into my mind of like how stories are structured and like how people play with different tropes and how people, and it's fascinating to me. So yeah,
Definitely.
that's why I love reading.
So we may not be talking video games as much in the near future.
I mean,
Which-
we'll cover E3, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sure I'm
yeah.
sure I'll cave and play video games,
exactly. But
Yeah.
my goal is to kind of shelve the controllers for a bit, and because I was reading something somewhere where it's like, it was more like an inspirational quote, but it was like a famous author or something who had said at a conference that the difference between me and you is that I did it. Like, I wrote it, and it was like, ooh, that's a great challenge.
I see stuff like that a
love
lot.
that.
I'm like, man, all it takes is just starting it.
Just
And
doing
it's like people
something.
who make stuff that's like huge now, and it's like, it's literally all it took is they were just like, I did it. Like, I wrote it. No one else did it, and they refused to do it. And so that's been a really gut check of a challenge of like, am I putting my time and energy, if I'm really as excited and passionate about these things that I'm doing, and if I do think that this could be something, am I willing to shelve something else that's like, that's fun and enjoy, but isn't maybe for the edification of a final project?
Yeah, I think for me too, like when I listen to writers say like, well, here's the top 10 tips that help me, like whatever, like they always, the top tip is always like, if you want to write stories, like you have to read, like you have to read books and comics and like different things. You have to immerse yourself in how different people are telling stories, but nobody ever says like you have to play tons of video games and whatever. And that's not to say video games have bad stories or can't be art. And
Well, it's the thing of that.
But for
we
me,
we don't
not,
see ourselves as creating video games.
Yeah, I'm not a
future,
video
right?
game creator, so like me playing video games isn't bolstering my like creative ability. It's kind of just like something for me to like space out for a while.
Yeah.
Which that's not to say other people who create video games need to play video games to.
Yeah. They get their creative inspiration.
Yeah. So I want to read more comics, read more books, and just kind of like, and learn how to draw and get immersed in that world, because I think that's where I see myself working more with writing, drawing, and music stuffs. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
buddy.
the summer's gonna be a good one. Hopefully we can all keep to it.
It's coming.
End of the summer, I did nothing.
Yeah, so I didn't even write a page.
So I beat all my Pokemon games, but I did not draw anything.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's one of the other things that we're going to start. And I'm going to say it now because then that'll actually get us to do it, is we are going to start Twitters so that we can...
Tweeters.
So we'll have
boy.
accounts and...
Talk about our dragon energy.
yeah. Yo, Trump, that dragon energy.
You got my dragon energy.
That'd be a great... I would love to read a comic about Kanye West and harnessing dragon energy.
He's
Just like a
he's
superhero.
a fascinating character.
That's a guy.
I kind of
No.
wanted to make him like one of the gods in my story.
That would
like
be-
a
Kanye.
like Kanye,
Like a rat dude. Like that would be interesting.
Like 300 years
Like
from
a
now,
hip
people
hop,
like
like
if you had, or
orientation.
not a hip hop specific. If you had like a music artist that just had such a weird, powerful
Yeah.
standing, that'd be interesting. I was thinking, what if we did? Because we both love Kendrick Lamar. What if we collabed and made a Kung Fu Kenny comic?
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
I don't know if I could pull that off.
Kung Fu Kenny.
Coming at you. That's funny.
But anyway, so we're gonna be doing that so that we can kind of have like just some, I don't know, some social media engagement, because we all hate it. But our hope is to just kind of like, if anything, just jive with each other. So if you use Twitter, feel
And we'll
free
troll everyone
to,
else.
Yeah, exactly. We're just gonna be trolling. But just to have some fun with stuff, and also to just even keep updated of like, you know, if you are interested in seeing where these stories go, like we'll post.
It's kind of I think of
Stuff.
it too, because like we have our own text chain where we like text each other articles and stuff that's like dumb and goofy, and you always send us videos about like funny memes and stuff.
Yeah.
But we could do that like on Twitter basically, and like,
Yeah.
basically like, yo,
So
what
if
do
you want to
think
see
about this?
some
And
of
you're
the
like, I think that's
references that we
dumb.
might talk about, yeah, exactly.
So just like goofy back and forth between us. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, we'll keep you posted, and we'll probably, Phil and I will probably dive deeper into that next week, on that show. So, and it's pretty
He gone.
you gonna lead, dog.
They're gonna kidnap me. This is all a ploy to get me on the next episode. Please call 911 right now. Oh gosh. Anyway, you were saying?
You can check out our show on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. I'm working. It just takes freaking ever to upload the stupid
all good.
videos. But yeah, on that note, this has been the Pop Culture Punks podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We have some cool stuff on Redbubble. If you want to check it out, get some cool mugs, some tote bags, some T-shirts,
Tote bags.
And
we
we
still
still
know you want a tote
and we still
bag.
have stickers.
And we do
still
still have lots of
at this
stickers.
point, just send us an email and
Just
tell us
say-
you want
just
it.
say
and
hello.
Literally,
Yeah,
literally
just
just
say
write
hi.
an email that just says "yo," like,
And then we'll
be
make
like,
a
"Done,
fake
send it
question
to you."
that came from you.
Yeah,
But
we'll make-
we want to get rid of these stickers.
Anonymous
Correct.
user said, hello. Well, my opinion on that is like when you look at the creative industry, it like they really don't understand the criticism.
Exactly.
So-
Cool.
And that's just.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Please send us any feedback. We'd love to hear any new stuff. Otherwise, we're just gonna do whatever the heck we want, which is kind of what we're doing anyway. We were,
Yeah.
you know,
And if
maybe
you want to
that's
be
been
on
ro-
the podcast, let us know why you
Actually,
deserve to be on the podcast.
we may work that in. Dude, that'd be pretty freaking funny. Like, here's my resume. I'm very opinionated about soaps, types of broccoli. I'm very passionate about organic chicken.
I take frequent kidnaps.
Yeah. You're currently in my axis of evil.
I need to use the restroom.
I hear it.
It's because it's coming through the mic. You know how bad that is when, like, during the middle of like that happened during one of my final exams. Like, I really had to use the restroom, and then like it was just dead silent, and I just hear my. I'm like, I like pretend to look around, and be like, whose stomach is that?
Who is that?
Yeah. Who didn't eat breakfast this morning? Okay.
On that note,
Bye bye.
get
See
the
ya, suckers.
frick out of here.
Voices in my heart tell me to throw it all away, to toss it in the wind and forget yesterday. But the crowd comes singing back with that same old song. You've got bills you gotta pay. What about job security? But I've been dreaming about packing it all up, 'cause the war in me just won't relent till there's nothing left but dust. So what do you do when the walls start closing in, and everyone you love tells you it's all just in your head? And I wanna burn out in a brilliant burning blaze. Don't wanna be stifled by the dry rot or the haze. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life. The path that we all choose only takes us one way. Either we're honest with ourselves or we're lost